come on in. Let's see who we got. Yeah, AJ, come on in. We're just opening the door right now. We're gonna get started literally 1 minute after the hour. So make good use of the lunchtime here for people on the East Coast. Yeah, Frank, welcome to the webinar. John, you about ready to get going?
I think we're ready, Kirk.
Yeah, just I'm gonna give it 1 minute. Yeah, Jan. Hey, as you all come in, if you'd put the city into the chat box, that'll help John and I know who's in the room, and we can, maybe target things even more for you and make things more relevant here. So if you put your city in, we're going to have a nice group. There'll be lots of chance for interaction. It's good to get the chat box open and put your city in as you come in the room, and that way you know where it is, and we'll be in a good place to interact with us. We're going to have about 20 some odd folks here, and so good chance to go back and forth and maybe go a little bit deeper, start to answer some of your questions. So I'm glad you're here. Yep, Frank, you're outside of DC. I'm in Bethesda, Maryland, so I'm catty corner to where you are in DC. And DC was in lockdown quite a bit the last couple of days. So good to have Kensington. Good. We're really close to each other then. Yeah. So as people come in, if you would put your city that you're in, then we'll kind of know who's in the room. Probably about 20 of us once we get going, plus or minus some. And John, where are you?
AJ, I got you, AJ. I'm just a couple hours north of the city. AJ's from Long Island, so same neck of the woods. Yep. The city meaning New York. So.
Yep, up northeast. So good. Yep, and one minute more. And Patrick, where are you from? What neck of the woods? If we can find a chat box on the bar somewhere. Yep, Craig, you're in Clearwater. Yep. Yeah, Craig's one of our CFOs in Florida, so we definitely know something about you. Okay. So get Randy, Patrick. If you guys want to let us know where you are, that'd be fantastic, because making it as close as possible to like the old days when to get in a room together and interact. So John, are you ready? I'm gonna kick things off.
Ready to go.
Okay, so my name is Kirk. I'm the CEO of Foresight CFO. In addition, I teach financial management to grad students at Georgetown University. And I'm the father of 2 sons, both by way of West Point, both are Army officers. And then, so the father of 2 and the husband of 1, right? And what we're gonna go through, the 2, are you a 2% CEO? It comes out of, our best practices, impact financial management. And that literally grew out of decades of experience working side by side with CEOs globally. You're going to see there's some discipline execution involved in it. So that, from my background in the military and in the Army, and then as well as teaching, right? We're always taking team members, CEOs and their managers to, what is the next step? But we're a roll up your sleeves kind of group to actually do the work. So John, why don't you introduce yourself and we'll kick things into high gear here.
All right. So I've been working with Kirk almost 5 years now, Kirk. We've been putting the Foresight model together. My background comes from CFO work in government economic development, so strategic economic development, and came from a CFO position. And Kirk and I put our heads together and thought there's a sweet spot here, especially with the internet world, where we can really reach out to small businesses and serve them in a really healthy way. And so that's what we're looking at here today. How to leverage small businesses up to the next level in a way that's really practical and gets it done.
Yeah, so the whole question, are you a 2% CEO? And about using the number story and developing 8 drivers to really make the business fly well. So John, who are the 2% CEOs?
Well, a few of them, but they're the ones, the 2% of the people that actually work at the top of their game. I think they actually they've made it to the top of the pyramid.
Yeah, what I mean, to kind of fill in the gap.
So let me lay this out a little bit more.
Uh-huh.
Okay. If you differentiate between in any group of people, you're going to have 1 or 2 or 3 people that really get it and really climb the mountain. They usually have vision, Okay. They stand out because they're looking forward and not just down. So, for instance, a couple numbers: 12% of the businesses, only 12% of businesses that start stay in business after the 5th year. Only 4% ever earn more than $1 million in revenue, and only 2% become a solid business that can be transferable past the founder. That grows past their founder. So that 2%. The people that grow a solid business that can stand alone, operate by itself, and operates as a business is kind of that group that we can help the most. I think that's what makes us really that's our target audience, and those are the people that make things better.
Yeah, so let's kind of talk a little more. Using the number stories and developing those drivers. So it's for those of you that are in, if you're in the DC area, you might be a government contractor. I think roughly like 25% of the companies are GovCons, and then throughout the rest of the country, some percent. So we talk about using the numbers, having clarity, and I know from experience, that government procurement officer, they know that only 2% of the companies actually make it, right? Where they can have confidence awarding the big contracts to those companies. And on the front end, procurement officers, they're looking at your number story. In some cases, businesses have to be bondable, so they have to be able to go through underwriting. So the procurement officer knows, based on your historical financials and your forecast forward, whether the business has the wherewithal for different types of contracts. And there's some risk, right? If you award a contract to somebody who doesn't follow through, then it just creates problems for that procurement officer. So they look at the numbers to see, do you have a solid financial footing to be able to give a contract to you. In general, commercial companies in the U.S. aren't required to disclose their financials to a potential commercial client, and your financials are public information. I mean, just like a public company, a private company is putting their numbers out for the public to view and use as they see fit. So either way, reading the number story and developing the drivers, this is what gives the 2% CEOs, the ones who are making a real business that potentially is transferable, so that it'll sustain and go beyond them. Either way, reading the number story and developing the 8 drivers that we're going to reveal today is worth the effort, right? Just like having it's like having a scoreboard, a number story, or a dashboard. If you're flying a plane, if you got the numbers, you can see where you're actually at. What is your actual altitude. So depending on your team's level of preparedness, you might feel like this, right? There's been a lot going on, the last 12 months, where it
looks like most of 2020, Kirk, right there.
That's 2020, kind of a lot of uncertainty, right? Not clear, stressed out, especially for businesses that were in the hospitality type industries. I mean, those are the ones that have taken the biggest toll. Or if the business is dependent on you, you might feel like this. You're wearing multiple hats. The day is a whirlwind. You're juggling different items. Versus if your team has matured to a certain level, your capacity to sell and deliver, you might feel like this. You have more clarity, more confidence. You're driving the impacts that you're looking for, seeing what needs course correction, and taking action that same day. So, 3 different scenarios here. And John, how does scaling exploit weak points?
So this is so this topic is actually for growth companies. If you're running a pizza shop, and you have the same revenue every year, the same customers, same costs, and you make a little more one year, a little less next year, and you just send your books over in a shoebox, your papers over in a shoebox to the tax guy, you don't really need to worry about scaling, because you're not trying to grow, and you can kind of get by with a lot of family health and very casual management. On the other hand, when you're trying to grow your company, you want to grow your company 20% a year, then every part of your company has to work together. And as you grow, then stress happens to the existing team and to the existing processes, the existing tools that you have. The second thing, so all of your team members have to be prepared to grow and think differently. You have to add salesmen, you have to manage more people, you have to manage more complexity, new products in order to deliver more to your customers. The other thing scale does, it eats up cash. A lot of times you get a big order in and then you pay for it and then you sell it and then you get the money. And by then you're all out of money because there's an elastic nature to growth that a lot of people don't compensate for. They don't plan ahead for. And then they run out of cash and they have to borrow from their folks and or their kids. And then it just takes a lot of stress on the business. So scaling, when you're trying to grow the company, just like an airplane trying to climb off the runway, everything needs to be working right when you're climbing. When you're coasting, things can be weaker or less organized. So that's where I think we want to talk about today. To get to that 2% zone, we need to look at your business differently than you would if it was just kind of a maintenance business.
Yeah, as CEO, the way I kind of look at it, if things are okay and the wheels are on, but they're starting to feel shaky, or things are lagging, or is a key red flag, key initiatives, priorities, they're lagging, that's a red flag that something's wrong. You can, if you feel that about your business, you can be pretty sure if you 2x or 3x, that additional weight is going to exploit whatever weakness it is to the point where it might bring you to a grinding halt, right? And cash is definitely one of those areas where, rapid growth consumes cash. So we see that quite a bit where, yesterday I could make payroll, but today I'm not sure what's going on and how to get ahead of it. So those are common things that we see.
Yep. So this is a case study we put together based on a couple of our clients. So one in particular, you think you're really lucky when you land a big contract. Like, okay, now we're moving. But this company, they ran into a series of problems that are not dissimilar from some of our other growth clients. And this is one of the things where we really bend over backwards to get you ahead of this growth curve. So first is the sales team. They're used to selling at a certain rate with a certain level of complexity. When you get a new product and twice as many calls, and then maybe you have to hire a new salesperson who's not very well trained, then there's a lot of stress on the sales team. Secondly, when you get the product and you have to go install it or roll it out, the operations team, which could operate at a certain level, when it's doubled, then the overtime goes up, the stress goes up, and more importantly, the mistakes go up, and then the rework goes up. So this cascading set of preventable kind of problems with the right planning. And finally, when you get in a crunch, you want to grab somebody and throw them in there to do the work. But it's really hard to hire someone at a technical level and get them up to speed in your system in a way that's fast enough that your customers aren't disappointed. And we see that actually a lot. People are growing, they've got the money, they got the customers, and they hit this operations wall where they can't get the people they need fast enough. They can get them eventually if they pay enough. It's not really planned out. So your succession planning and your growth planning on the hiring side has to be ahead of the curve. And then the other thing is the working capital. So especially government contracts, they pay you late. They don't pay you early, especially if you're a subcontractor. The prime gets paid early and you get paid late. You need 3 months salary in the bank before you start. 3 months of payroll in the bank before you start this new project, and most people don't have that. So I think that's I think catches a lot of people by surprise after they land the big fish and it sinks the boat. Okay, sorry.
Yep.
A minute.
Let me take you through. So the solution for these rapid, if you want to grow rapidly, if you're winning the big contracts, you want to scale, the best practices are, the 2% CEO habits of profitability. And this is some of it is block and tackle, the financial controls, so you can see where you're going, navigate better. Others is looking backwards, making sure that you have the right information to make decisions. So the habits of profitability complement the expertise of the CEO and their P&L managers. So at a highlight, we're going to step through it. habit 1 is make sure that you have good numbers. Habit 2 is manage cash well. Habit 3 is create that financial roadmap. You start to engineer profitability so you're in the top percentile of your industry. And habit 4 is how do you know you're in the top percentile? Well, competitive benchmarks, right? And then get the valuation for your business to see what's giving you lift versus drag. And then the last habit is developing these 8 drivers, right, which alleviate the business from key constraints like the owner dependency, the owner's trap. Okay, so before we dive into it and give you, kind of the what and the why of the habits of profitability, let's do a poll to know what size companies we have in the room here. And your response is anonymous. And it'll help John and I kind of gauge where we go. So it'd be, your response is much appreciated. And the first question on the poll is, what is your top line revenue in the prior year 2020? And there's different brackets to see where you fall into. And the second question is, this year, 2021, do you expect your revenue to increase, decrease, or stay about the same? All right. And the economists, I was on a couple of economist calls this week, and most of the economists think the second half of the year is going to be a rocket ship, like literally a rocket ship that becomes a 6-month marathon then into 2022, because there's pent-up demand, right? And people not only do they want to travel, they want to travel more than they did in COVID. So and there's a lot of expectation. People have been buying things over the pandemic year, and now they're going to want to do things, right, and get out and see people again. So being prepared, right, the definition of luck is where preparation meets opportunity. The opportunity to really rocket ship on the second half for many businesses it's here. Good. So I got 72%. I'm gonna end the poll, and I'll share results just so we can see here. So 60% of us are in that 0 to 5 million, 25% at 5 to 10, and we got somebody doing the 70 million. And given that only 4% of businesses ever make it past $1 million, only 12% of businesses are around after the 5th year. If you're doing thing 1 and thing 2, you're in that top 2 percentile. All right. It may not feel like it if you're caught into the whirlwind, but you're performance-wise, you're there. So now, how do we do better? And this year, 60% of us expect an increase, 13 decrease. Could be some options to pivot or do something differently. Where do we have growth potential? And 25% about the same. So it's going to be a good year for
that kind of matches your economist's predictions that the underlying economy is pretty strong.
Yeah, it does. I think the U.S. is expecting a 4% GDP, which is a nice hot run rate. So.
Yep, going to spring back. All right, so let's take a look at these. We've identified several consistent practices that get you ahead of the growth curve. And the first one is getting the right numbers. Many people, their numbers are designed by their tax accountant, their bookkeeping system, but they record the numbers that are important for the tax man. What we find when we go into businesses a lot of times is that the numbers you need are the numbers that tell you which of your products, services, and divisions are growing and shrinking. So the trends are very important at a detailed level, and also your costs, your variable costs, because that, as you grow, your variable costs versus your fixed costs determine a lot of your profit. So many times we have to go in and adjust the financials for operational accounting rather than just compliance. And this is the beginning. If you have these good numbers and you've thought through which parts of your business are growing and which ones are staying the same, and you measure them over time, then your numbers are useful. Then they completely are useful, and we can start to use them to predict trends coming in and coming out. So everyone has that responsibility, but the habit is to look at those numbers. A lot of people look at them at the end of the year, and that actually doesn't get it done. We need to really push the monthly regular revisit to those numbers. Also, your team has to learn to use these numbers. If the sales and expense numbers are foreign to them, they don't have any inner compass as to when they're spending too much or when those numbers are veering out of control. Sometimes you hear about it too late, at the end of the month instead of the end of the week. And so those are the kind of habits that a strong finance team will push into your company. And then your whole team goes up a level in terms of their awareness and operations.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I'm just going to add, John, sometimes it's a leap of faith, right? You know, the owners start out looking at the financials, and sometimes it's a leap of faith to share, you know, the P&L with managers. You know, they might see how good we're doing and want more compensation, or they might see that we're struggling and then run for the hills. Sometimes there's fear about really opening things up, and you know, I find that when you're teaching P&L managers, they actually have a very, very positive response. Sometimes initially intimidated because most of us haven't learned how to use the financials to, you know, have clarity about where to fly the plane. But you know, a couple months into it, teaching P&L managers to take the ownership, they have that same clarity you have. So now they're aligning to your interests, and they can, you know, they can tell you the number story. You know, compared to budget, we're over or under, and this is why. And they can propose what actions to take instead of the actions coming from the manager. So you can almost feel the weight coming off the CEO's shoulder as the managers really become empowered by using that number story every month, right?
yeah.
Every month, it's alignment. And what about weekly KPIs? That what, you know, why not just stick with the financials?
Well, that's a really important point. A lot of times the numbers, when the numbers hit the financials, it's too late because they have to go to the bank and they reconcile the bank and then they come back to you. But the KPIs, the key performance indicators, are the numbers that your team generates on the floor, whether it's sales or production, making a certain amount. And as you track those numbers, those are the ones that drive your finances. And everyone measured something. We unloaded 3 trucks today. But what we've tried to do is tie these KPIs to the financial indicators. So the thing you want to measure is not everything. You want to measure the key ones that actually are driving your profitability. So the difference is, do we unloaded 3 trucks and we sold 4 trucks? That's the kind of a difference that you want to notice. And I think there's a skill actually, and it involves give and take between the finance team and your management team. Identify the real hinge points for your business. Every business is different, unique, and there's certain general principles that apply. But as we apply these, now you've got a speedometer for your company, and each department can have their own speedometer, and they know when to speed up and when to slow down, and when to drill in and when to focus if they're getting good information from their dashboard. So this is another key skill in managing growth without kind of veering off the road.
Yeah, it makes, you know, having at least a weekly KPI. So some companies have real time, you know, data, which is fantastic. People log in, they can kind of see the heat map of where to go today to drive outcomes. At least once a week, even if it's manual, even if you're just creating it on a spreadsheet, you start out with one number. That's fine. Just keep using it 1 week, and you'll from 1 week to the next, you can shape that into what really works for you, and then at some point automate it, right? What you know what you need. But that gives you 52 opportunities. You know, it gives your managers 52 opportunities you could course correct something that's going sideways, or maybe there's an opportunity. Maybe something's better than expected. You see it sooner as a leading indicator, and you lean in and do more of that, right, to drive an outcome. So you get clarity and confidence on taking action, and your managers are empowered to, you know, literally today set their priority based on what's happening, you know, versus what they think is happening. And if we're not looking at the numbers, everybody's gonna have a different view in their mind about what's going on, and none of us are gonna be accurate. Maybe we're okay enough, but if we start moving really fast up or down, those variances and different perspectives and some inaccuracy is going to catch up with us. And the practice of, you know, the habit of looking at the financials every month is the only way to make sure your financials are accurate. because accountants are human beings that are coding things based on what they think is correct. And sometimes they hit the wrong key and it goes into the wrong bucket. So by looking at it every month, the managers are making sure that the numbers are accurate and they're using the numbers to make these, these flight plan adjustments and, capitalize on opportunities that you have for you. So, John, is there anything else you want to say about KPIs before we talk about habits?
I think you got that.
Okay, so the next habit, the first habit, some of it's financials, rear view mirrors, what already happened, right? And use that as a foundation to make decisions. KPI can be leading indicators, and it could be, what do you have in the pipeline now to know what you're going to have for sales tomorrow, kind of stuff. If there's another most critical habit, it's manage the cash well. If push comes to shove, I'll take cash over profitability if I had to choose between one or the other. Now I want both, but if I had to choose, the cash, we're not cash. That's when you close your business. And I've never seen a business close because of struggling in profitability. It's when they can't make payroll or can't keep up with the tax liability. So the habit, the best practice is, there's two of them, right? The first one is used by some organizations that create a 12-week cash forecast, which is a short-term view. You're matching the money in with the money out. You can use the cash forecast to authorize accounting about what to pay versus what not to pay. So it's kind of the matching up, and you can see at least 3 months out if there's a significant gap. If you got something structural going on, maybe the year or multi-year view will give you better insights about that. But for short-term working capital management, this whole week cash forecast does the job. So the what and the why, you're matching things up so you can make payroll. On the second part of cash management that's rarely done by most private companies is measure your cash conversion. I mean, how fast from when you do the work to billing to collection, your inventory churn, because all that time in inventory is consuming your cash. And when you scale up, that nut you got to crunch gets even bigger. So if you measure the cash conversion cycle compared to your industry benchmarks, you can figure out, where can we move the dials and really move it in, where we maybe even move towards cash positive. A lot of billing practices are just tradition with no reason. So to challenge some of those traditions, maybe we can get prepaid in part or in full, right? Now we have positive cash. So those two habits, the 12-week cash forecast and measuring your cash conversion cycle at least once a year, preferably twice a year, so you have opportunities to take action, and with the goal of moving towards positive cash flow. Not only does it accelerate your cash, makes your business more valuable, right? When you want to transfer it, you want to step back fully or partially, the less cash that your business consumes, the more valuable it is, right? So worthwhile on multiple levels. Okay, let's take a step forward. So we got, we're looking at the financials, weekly KPI, you got the cash working for you. So habit 3 is now you're looking forward 12 months down the road. You create that financial roadmap, that month by month expectation, that what's going to happen for sales, how am I going to operate? This is known as the budget, but the budget doesn't sound very exciting or useful. So that 12-month rolling forecast where you're engineering profitability, you're doing the what if. What if I hire 6 new engineers? How do I know I can afford 6 new engineers? This is how you answer those questions. And maybe it's a capital expense. You got to buy trucks. Maybe you got to buy equipment, right? You can do and then you can do the what if to find the best way there. And this slide shows the value of that to you. I mean, just take the baseline business here. I'm using simple numbers so we can conceptualize, but from top to bottom, from $100,000 revenue down to $4.7 thousand, $1 million, whatever scale you want for your business. This example is showing we're earning the 4.7% of profitability. But look what happens when I'm engineering profitability, doing the what if. What if I can increase my pricing because I'm so valuable? Go to the impact I have on my clients. I can increase my price by just 1%. Right? What if through financial management, the tools we're looking at, I can manage my costs better by just my direct costs better by just 1%. And if we can't do that, and then overhead, likewise, just managing it 1% better by having these strong financial controls, right, and see what's going on and make decisions and follow through. That 1 + 1 + 1 equals 38.6% increase in profitability. So now this is not boring. The budget stuff is pretty good, right? Now the scenario, well, what if we go toward the sweet spot of our market and there's a 5%, 10%? What we have is so unique that there's a 20% price premium on it because it has so much value and impact to your clients, right? And they know it and they love it. What if 20%, 5% price increase? What would that do to your profitability, right? Dollar for dollar, bottom line, right? Dollar for dollar. So it, the best practice is, going into the year, you come in hot with your budget, and at certain intervals of the year, based on the annual cycle, you reforecast, based on what I know 3 months from now, 6 months from now. But still, don't forecast this through year end like December, because your view is getting short. Forecast all the way through 12 months, right? If I'm doing the forecast in July 2021, I'm going to forecast all the way through June 2022, right? So your managers develop a skill, develop plan and execute across 12 months, month on month, with no fear. Of course, sometimes I hear when we're doing this that I don't know what's going to happen 6 months from now. Well, of course you don't. The world is going to vary so much. I can't forecast. Yeah, you're not going to know exactly what's going to happen, but create your view. If you want, run scenarios, best case, worst case, run scenarios, different ways of growing. Create your view, and that becomes your measuring point. And if the world's going different, better or worse, you'll see it. If it's better, how do you capitalize on it? If it's worse, how do you, reforecast, retrench, reset operations, do something different in sales? You're taking action. You have that measuring point. Otherwise, you're just kind of flying your plane, maybe looking out the window, seeing what's down below, right? And but you can't do much about it. You're just kind of flying around. So the habit 3, creating your financial roadmap and using it and involving your managers where they take the ownership for starting with sales, that forecast, they own it, right? They're going to do it. That's the best practice, right? And it's all about teaching and developing your team members, no matter where they're at. What's the next step in their skill, right? All right, John, habit 4.
All right. So there's a couple ways to make money. One, at the end of the month, you look in the bank and see if there's more there this month than there was last month. But with a business is something actually you can go on vacation for 4 months, and when you come back, it's still there. When you build a business, then now you've got something that's valuable in itself, and you can sell the business. And so a lot of people, they don't make a lot of money month to month, but they make a lot of money when they sell. Some of these small tech companies. So the value, the proposition, the products, the processes, the people are worth something. So this is a hidden part of value value creation. And many small businesses are so busy doing the day-to-day, they don't take time to step back and look at their business as a valuable asset. So one of our habits is to take once in a while, we step back. We have a specialized software that can do competitive benchmarks from a giant database of companies, compare your numbers to other numbers, get you on a success scale. You're a 5 out of 10 on this, and a 3 out of 10 on that, and an 8 out of 10 on this. Then you can start to adjust your business, not just to make money on a month-to-month or week-to-week basis, but actually on a multi-year basis, and have a gradual kind of growth curve, wealth building plan for your business. And this is something that's not intuitive. You have to kind of see what the other people are in your business, in your area are doing, what your market is, what your opportunities are. There's a bunch of variables that have to come together. And the banking and M&A people have got formulas and plans, and we'll set that up for you so that you can see, right, in soft numbers about what you're worth. And if you sold today, it'd be about worth this. And if you did these 8 things, it would be about twice as much. Or if you did these 6 things, you could move the value of your company up. And Kirk's going to talk a little bit about that. You can use EBITDA as a rough measure of market value.
Yeah.
So this is an important part that's many businesses, growing businesses, just don't have time to get to. Important to give you some vision and steering lanes, so you can stay on the road.
Yeah, John, it's really a missed opportunity because the benchmarks are the opportunity to look beyond everything else has been internal company data. Right now, we can look beyond. How competitive are we for our industry, and invariably that's going to unlock doors. Right, some areas you'll be stronger in, some areas you're weaker in. Doesn't matter. There's no judgment. It's an opportunity for me to see clear about where to go. How do we get into that top 20%? So when you're doing anything, if you're raising capital right now today for your business, and you can prove that you're in the top 20%, you're that much more likely to get the backing of the lender, right? It could be equity, debt, whatever it is. If you can defend where you stand and you know it, you're playing on a whole different level. You're playing chess versus checkers. And you can see in this example, right? There's a client that we work with, a construction company, that they're doing about 2% year over year, and they for a long time, for decades, thought was pretty good. But then when they found out that the average company in their industry is doing 5 times that, doing 10%, silence, because they've been leaving money on the table. And it's not easy to go from 2% to 5x profitability of 10. I'll never say it's easy, but it is doable. Right? We got the data, we know it's doable. Then what is the top 20% doing, right? Because we want to be there, right? And then create a roadmap from where we're at to where we want to be, and do the work and make adjustments at each step, do the work. And likewise, on the current ratio, I mean, the average company has $3.27 for every $1 of liability. And this company was struggling at just, $1.29. So we could make payroll, but, we're flying close, armies, right? We're flying close to the trees. And at some point, a branch is going to jump up and get you, or it could, if there's something unexpected, like a pandemic or a 9/11 or something like that. So by using these, it's like breaking the 4-minute mile. Once you know it's doable, then the mindset shifts, and you can start the path to actually do it. Roll up our sleeves and let's do it together, kind of stuff. John, so that's kind of the use evaluation. We do a managerial level evaluation, so you can see what gives us lift versus drag, and what action will we take this 90-day sprint to hit that target. Okay, so. Yep. John, should we step on to the habit 5?
Yeah.
Okay, so habit 5, we're going beyond the numbers, right? Where everything now has been good financial controls, getting that visibility, engineering profitability. But now habit 5 is developing the 8 drivers, right? And for example, the owner's trap, right? If you're in on those pictures where if you're in the whirlwind where you got all the hats on, there's a good chance that you're in the owner's trap. And if you started your business, we all start in the owner trap because you're doing everything: sales, delivers, back office, hiring people, right? And we carry some of that all the way through. The owner trap will create a stall point for your business, because no matter how great you are and you're the top 2%, our wingspan is still finite, right? So at some point the business is going to start to stall because it's all sitting here. So if you really want to go for it, have the top line you want all the way through the bottom line, so you have profitability and you're accelerating cash, escaping owner trap makes a lot of value. And I'm going to play it out from a valuation standpoint. If your business is dependent on you as an owner, it's less valuable. Plus, when it's time to transfer the business, you're probably going to get stuck into an earn-out that averages 2.5 years, where you're accountable for results, but you no longer have the same authority that you had when you were the owner. Plus, the owner becomes an employee again, which is never a good thing. So, and a big part of the price to acquire your business will probably be tied up in that earn-out period if the business is dependent on you. And I can promise you, it's not going to go well. It's
not be fun.
Yeah, it's just painful experience. So drivers are about freeing the business where you're not limited by dependency. Like you look on the bottom right-hand corner, and being dependent on a key customer concentration. If you're getting your revenue 20% or more, some people say 10 or 15%, we'll go with 20 or more from one client, including if you're a government contractor. If it's from one agency, you're dependent. And if you think too big to fail and governments don't shut down, you hadn't looked back at the last couple of years, where the shutdowns are accelerating. Employee dependence, that when you get that knock on the door for a key employee, they're going to step out to go do something else, and that's going to set you back 6 months because everything's up here, including salespeople who have all their client relationships right there in their personal phone, right? No CRM kind of stuff. Supplier dependency. So think, take a look at the drivers with me. It starts to make sense. Like, what makes us unique? Well, if you have something that's really unique and your clients love it, they value it, then price premium, right? They do better, you do better. Recurring revenue, so something that's predictable, makes your business more valuable. It makes you more profitable now versus project revenue. That projects stop, they start, they end, and there's surges, there's all this instability. The growth potential, like, the company that expected declining revenue, you might want to do the growth potential exercise. Where do we, in our marketplace, doing more with existing customers, doing the same thing with existing customers, more of it, or the same thing with new customers, or something new with existing customers, or something new with new customers. Look at your growth potential to figure out where to really invest. So these are the drivers, uniqueness, customer satisfaction, financial performance, right? That profitability, accelerating cash, that maximizing the value of our business, a positive cash flow we talked about, basically getting money before you spend money, kind of thing. All those make it easier to manage your business because dependencies are being alleviated, and it makes your business more profitable today. You're accelerating cash, and this is how you maximize the value of your business. The first 4 habits plus developing these eight drivers. Okay, and we know it because literally based, not only do we do the work hands-on with hundreds of CEOs globally, small teams of 2 and 3 for each client. I teach financial management at Georgetown University for grad students, so we got to have some research and that kind of stuff. So we have a database of 34,000 private companies, and we rely on that to figure out how do we move, what are the trends and how do we see it before other people see it to jump on. So we know that when we develop these 8 drivers intentionally, and this is definitely not all at once. First you set the table, become aware of them, and then start in 90-day sprints, start taking action on the key ones, because we only have to address 2 or 3 before the needle starts to move. Okay, so based on that database, 34,000 companies, on average, the benefits of getting, the performance zone, if you're scoring 80 plus, you're in the performance zone. On average, that increases the value of the business by 71% compared to your competitors. Not increase the value of your business 71%, but compared to your competitors, you're 71% more valuable. Okay. Plus, since you're alleviating dependencies, you can literally go on vacation for 2-3 weeks, even a month, come back and your business is still running really well without you because the business is not dependent on you. You get some time back. So you got the financial resources to do what you want when you want. And you're starting to get time, some peace of mind, where you can spend time with family, your friends, right, for hobbies, even to be healthy. Because if you have time and money, you're not healthy, it just kind of diminished the value of the first 2, right? So the drivers kind of carve out, and none of it's easy. It's work. And so to further illustrate, with the score, we send a link out to the score to everyone before this meeting, and we'll resend it. It takes about 12 minutes, no preparation needed. But based on the score, in that database of 34,000 companies, we know that if the business scores 50 or less, their multiple of the earnings, earnings before paying taxes, is about 2.76, right? Versus the performance zone of 80 plus, the multiple is 6.27, and then you have a range of outcomes. And this is where we promised in the email invitation to come to this webinar. We'll show you how to calculate the value for yourself. The next slide will take this concept, and you can calculate the value to yourself. So an example, for every $1 million of EBIT, earnings before tax, let out the interest and amortization intentionally. So earnings before you pay your taxes, for every $1 million, you can see if you scored 80 plus, you're getting a 6.27 multiple. So it's worked from a valuation standpoint when you transfer your business. And there's 7 options to transfer your business. There's one that's right for you. You'll get paid out for every million, $6.27 million of cash, right? which I hope you have a good wealth manager and tax strategy so you don't have to write another check to somebody else. And conversely, the average initial score, that same business is worth the same $1 million is worth 3.6 million. This is the average initial score is 59 for most companies, right? And then everything else is upside. So that, it's real work. If you look at it, makes sense. Uniqueness, not depending on the owner, recurring revenue, right? If the what and the why makes sense, and doing the work to get the result that you're looking for, so you have the freedom you want, is worthwhile. So I'll pause a moment here. Here's the the worksheet to calculate the benefit to you. So, the way you do this is, think about, your earnings before you pay taxes, like maybe last year as a placeholder. Calculate that number by 6.27 to get a value, right? And this is the high side of the value. You're in the performance zone on the 2% CEO score. And then the average initial score, same thing. Put your earnings in this spot, multiply by 3.59. So if you do that right now, kind of back in the envelope, you'll get an idea of value, and you'll get some kind of result, right? So then subtraction, A minus B, you're getting the increased value by developing those drivers and putting in the financial controls to have visibility with the first 4 habits. And then you calculate the percent increase, the change divided by the base number, and that'll let you know, rough order of magnitude of what is literally attainable. Okay, John, would you, since you're out there doing this every day, would you?
Yeah, I think that I think one thing it's when you're at your head down and you're making your business run, it's easy to think that I got it done, that's good enough. But when you can back away and see the numbers well enough, as you work gradually over time to take the short stave in the barrel out, your company not just is more profitable on a month-to-month or day-to-day, but then the overall value of your company raises. So you're getting paid twice when you improve your processes, when you sharpen your pencil, and when you smarten up your team. So that whole process takes time, and over that time, you can get, again, paid twice. Once in your cash every month, and once when you're ready to move the company.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, that's a way to look at it. You get paid now and tomorrow, today and tomorrow. So okay, pretty good.
So, and this math is averaged over a whole bunch of companies. So your company may be different, you may be more or less, but it's hard to fight averages. I mean, these are real numbers.
Yep. Well said. So let's kind of bring it home here. So this is battle tested. I mean, John has 3 decades. I have just 1 year short of 3 decades. So I'm going to say 3 decades. It sounds better. So this is battle tested with hundreds of CEOs globally. This is to complement your expertise, bring the numbers in, develop the drivers, right? So that you gain clarity and the confidence on where to take action, and you're getting those financial impacts that you're looking for. So this approach, we call it impact financial management. It literally grew from decades of experience working side by side with CEOs, that military service, like clear targets, 90-day sprints, measurable outcomes, and teaching non-financial managers at Georgetown in grad school how to use the numbers, right? No matter what discipline they have in the company, how to use the numbers to make better decisions. So, so since inception, this has been well vetted, and it's probably worth, at least for some people, to check into and see what can it do for you. So let's bring it home. We're going to land right on time. I always like to do that. And so we guide CEOs to use the number story and develop these drivers, right? And we do this through Growth CFO and accounting services. And invariably the objectives, for what you really want out of your life, the near-term objectives are, how do we use the numbers to win more customers, keep the customers we have the right people, capacity, delivering quality to your clients. Because you want to come through for your clients, having access to capital at favorable terms, and that strong financial result, at least a strong financial footing, so you have more options, right? So you can breathe easier. So definitely find out what the 2% CEO score will do for you. And the report has this components or organized differently, but overall score, and you can see the EBIT ranges on what it does for you if you move the dial, and then individual score for each, of the 8 drivers. We can see what 1 or 2 things can we do. It's not everything, but in our business, what 1 or 2 things can we do that really moves the dial, that's obtainable by us. And we're gonna we'll send you a slide deck and the link so you can do that. And the report, looks something like this. And this is beyond traditional financial management, beyond the numbers. Invariably, when you read this report, I'm willing to bet that you're gonna have some aha moments where you have, just by reading the report, and it's plain English, it's not finance talk, you're gonna see some things that you can do like now for your business. We'll send a link to you to take that survey. It takes 12 minutes, no preparation. Even some CEOs say when they're answering the questions, even just the questions make them start to think, and that's part of learning and having that growth mindset. So definitely, I'm going to send a link to you if you want to hop on a call and talk more about your business. We can go through your score and maybe come away with 1 or 2 action items that are worthwhile. Shoot me an email. I'll hop on a call with you and CEO to CEO, think through things and see where there's bigger possibilities. So we are landing right on time, John. We're right there.
Wow.
Yeah. You're good. So I'm gonna let me answer one question here from Patrick. If you have multiple lines of business in your company, how do you check the industry standards? A couple things. One, there's no benchmark that's going to exactly match your business, because your business is a unique reflection of you. So I'll give you 2 ways of thinking about it, depending on what your product mix is. If there's an industry code that mostly matches where you're at, just go with the simple solution there. Go with that industry code. It will give you a good idea about where to lean in. In addition, like if you go to the bank to get the loan or something like that, that's what they're going to do. All right. So you had that first look loan score view of it, and we can run your benchmarks, by the way, and we subscribe to the same database that a lot of banks use to make decisions. The second option, if there's enough volume, economic activity around different types of product that really are different industries, then you can just run a benchmark for each category and then do some blending for the overhead stuff. And the benchmarks don't have to be perfect, right? Whether you go with the pure model or the blended model, it doesn't have to be perfect. To meet the purpose is to stimulate your thinking, where you can see more clarity about where to go versus operating in isolation without that information. So Patrick, if I didn't answer your question, and even if I did answer your question, feel free to shoot me an email, and we can think through what you're thinking about together. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap it up, since we made a commitment to be under the hour. We're right there. But looking forward to really an awesome 2021. Get ready for the second half, because unless there's some big surprise out there, like the Titanic or something, the second half is going to be off the charts. And so be ready, be prepared for that scale. Okay, like the Boy Scouts, right? So John, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. I took you off doing all the great client work you and your teams are doing, but thank you so much for joining me.
Kind of fun. So good. You're welcome.
Good stuff. So that's a wrap. Thank you.